broadcasting from Miami, Florida. We have a great hangout tonight. We have Vishad Sukul, MD, a neurosurgical resident at Temple University in Philadelphia. In addition, on the panel, we have John Hewitt, a medical writer who does a lot of writing in neurology and neurosurgery. So it was kind of fortunate that Vishad's here tonight. And we may be joined somewhere along the line with a few other people. So this is a pretty informal gathering. So why don't you just, Vishad, to start, just explain, where you trained, where you came from, how you came upon computers, because that's one thing we're kind of interested in is you have a very good technical background. We're kind of curious as to what. And then just speak about your experiences with glass. And John and I will just jump in now and then.
Sure. So as John mentioned, my name is Vishad. I'm my last year of residency at Temple in Philadelphia in neurosurgery. Big tech aficionado, and have been for a very large portion of my life. I've kind of got interested in Google Glass and exposed to that probably mid to early last year. I kind of heard about it, started reading more about it, thought it was pretty cool. And then back in December, when I got the opportunity to join the Explorer program, I was like, I got to get this. So bit the bullet and picked it up, and it's been a pretty cool experience ever since then. I guess where should I start in terms of what?
Well, just your experiences when you put it on, and the first time in the operating room. The kind of feedback you got from administration, from other surgeons?
Well, the exposure, the experience that I've used it for, I've tried it out in the operating room, several times, trying to figure out the best way to use it. Now, I know that some of the other guys who have used glass in the operating room in different disciplines have also had some exposure to some of the people who are developing platforms specifically for glass. I saw Kyle's Samani's presentation about Pristine, and that's a pretty cool endeavor. For me, I've just been kind of trying to figure out what I can do with just the software that's on glass by itself. And so, initially it was okay. I wanted to try out the video capabilities and the picture taking capabilities. With wearing glass, could I take a picture with this? And so I use it in one or two small cases, primarily things that I didn't need to wear loops for because it's practically impossible to wear these over regular loops.
Right.
So the one thing, and I think that probably most surgeons will probably mention that, is that it's a little difficult to kind of keep the video in the field of view of what you're doing and actually still look at the surgical field at the same time. And that was a big thing for me at first was how do I do that especially if I wanted to broadcast or even make a recording to look at thereafter. So that was a concern, but definitely an exciting aspect of technology. And the second thing that really I thought was cool was the ability to just look at stuff. So if I wanted an image that I wanted to kind of just reference during the case, it would be I'd take a picture of it with my phone and then text it to myself using Hangouts so that I could look at the card on the glass prism, and that was kind of my workaround, if you will. And then later on, I think there was another app that came out called Recall, where you could recall an image with a voice command that you had used before, and I thought that was pretty cool. Hey, Paul, how are you?
Hey, what's up, dude?
How's it going?
Yeah, Paul Sotek, trauma surgeon from Indy, a late arrival. How you doing, Paul?
Good. What's up? Hey, I'd like to thank Sean for being here tonight, and on behalf of the Watch Society. And didn't mean to interrupt there, but we really appreciate you kind of spending your time tonight.
Awesome.
Yeah, Vishad just talking about his experiences, his early experience, and the apps that he uses now.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, as I was saying before, just to kind of catch Paul up, but I haven't had the opportunity to kind of work with some of the bigger app programs platforms that are out there, like even Context-Aware and Pristine. So I've just been kind of trying to make do with the whatever software comes preloaded on Glass and the few APKs I've been able to pull off the internet. Try to figure out how to use some of this stuff in the operating room. I think what I was saying, my earliest experiences were the first thing I wanted to do was like, oh my God, I can use this thing to take video and take pictures of what I'm doing surgically. And, you know, one of the first things I came out with was like, I have to put my head at a really odd angle to capture the surgical field. And it was limited in terms of, you know, what I could do with it. And then, but one thing that I did find promising was that, you know, I'd be able to send myself an image of, you know, the CAT scan or just a kind of a choice slice of whatever I was looking at, and that would be a nice little reference sort of thing. So those were the two things, and then from there I've been trying to brainstorm ideas about how, you know, what if I were able to develop a platform, if I were able to develop an app, you know, what would I want it to look like? What would I, you know, how would I have the interactions and so forth? And then I tried to dive into the Mirror API to see if I could make sense of it, and I can't because my programming knowledge is way below what is needed to actually do some of these things today, because I left that behind many years ago before starting residency.
I think it's mostly Java, isn't it, Vishad?
I think so, but honestly, to tell you the truth, programming has moved on so far from where
I
was like, okay, I got to connect with developers now because there's no way I could even put something simple together.
Okay. Well, tomorrow.
Coffee, John.
Hey, Paul, do you have the same limitations on your vision? You can't really look. You have to look crooked at the field if you want to video it.
I think it depends on your height, to be honest with you, to some degree, and where you put it. I'm actually, the way I look down, pretty good. It's a little bit high, but when I've tried to do glass to glass between myself and one of the other residents, I didn't take into account it was a female resident who was shorter, and you kind of missed the field. You know, it's kind of yeah. I mean, you got to be careful with it.
Yeah.
Definitely has no problem. And we've been actually taking the back of it and kind of tilting it up. I think Heather Evans is doing some big headband thing and everything to try and get it at a better angle. But we usually just like tape a 4x4 or something around it and kind of move it up. Okay. You know, the argument with that is that you don't feel the vibration thing in the back, so it doesn't translate the sound. But I mean, it's been fine with the sound, or you just put the little earpiece thing in there.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta try giving that a shot. You know, and the hardest thing though is that some of the cases that I could use this on was a little limited because so many of our cases require us to wear loops.
Right.
You know, and until recently, when you know, when Designs for Vision came out with the loops that could attach into glass, that I was like, oh, okay, well, I think this might be something I can certainly use. So I've been actually talking with our local rep and may get those made. You know, a set of those made so that I can actually use it for a larger variety of cases.
Yeah, remind me, are you coming out for the conference, or are you not going to be able to make it?
I'm not going to be able to. I'm on call that weekend, so.
The reason I was asking is because they're going to be here with the loops with glass.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I was just going to say, you know, if you're coming, then you get to try them out. You know what I mean? Like, because they're bringing them in to test with everybody.
I think doesn't Dave use them? He uses glass with loops.
Yeah, he's actually probably the one that sort of pushed them, I think. It sounds like he was kind of the first one to really kind of have a pair of, you know, true glass loops made by Design for Visions.
Well, they were specially made for him.
Well, I mean, I don't know. He's the first one that started posting pictures with himself on it. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, right. On John's site, right? Website, I think he has that.
I mean, I find people down the street that are working on glass, and I don't even know about it. You know what I mean? Recently, so you just never know. Some people aren't saying what they're doing. You know, I will add to Vishad that Medtronic will be here too, and they got something that they're kind of working on. I don't know exactly what it is, but
yeah, I don't know either. I've we'd be talking, trying to talk to them to kind of see what exactly they're working, because it'd be pretty cool. You know, that was the other thing I think that, you know, like I said, ideas that I was kind of brainstorming, because I think, you know, what's on glass itself is, I think, great for the consumer, great for just, you know, the average, you know, the person who's using it in daily life. And I think we have to kind of take a step beyond that to try to figure out what will actually be good for it in the operating room, what you can get out of it. And for me, I think on the neurosurgery side, the video and the picture taking aspects are a little less important. I'm more interested in what content I can pipe into that prism and look at, because, I mean, truth be told, you know, either you're under loops and the field of view of glass would be so wide compared to the field of view of where you're operating, versus, you know, if you're under the microscope, you know, the video recording is kind of completely, in glass would be completely pointless there, because you can record through the scope. But I'm more interested in what you can pipe in, you know, imaging. You know, you could look at live feed from anesthesia, looking at, you know, even just your neuromonitoring data. that's kind of coming through, is to see if you're doing something. And I know that in the talk last night, I think that John Scott was doing the context aware, where he was talking, where he mentioned that he's working with the neurosurgery team that's using that with deep brain stimulation and looking at what the patient is doing. That actually could have a lot of applications. If you're the surgeon, you're seeing the patients. You think of it in an awake craniotomy, for example. You're doing speech testing on that patient to make sure you're not doing anything that's going to impede their speech. It'd be nice to be able to kind of watch the patient talking at the same time while you're stimulating and doing something surgical. So I think those are really cool potential applications. It's just figuring out how to program and develop those apps for glass that allow you to do that in a HIPAA compliant way at the same time.
Okay, excuse me, Vishad. I'd like to introduce Jeff Wint. I've never met Jeff. Hi, Jeff. I'm John Bennett.
How are you, everybody?
John Hewitt, Paul Sotak, and Vishad Sukul. Vishad is basically going over his experience in the OR. Jeff is a hand surgeon from Amherst, correct, Jeff?
Plainfield.
Plainfield, and you've used Google Glass in hand surgery. So yeah, well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Vishad.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem. So yeah, I mean that's kind of been my 2 cents, my take on where glass is in the OR, and I've come up with some ideas and some thoughts on applications and kind of designs for what I would like to do with it, but then now I've hit the roadblock of not being able to program them. So I think the next step is for me, and John's been very good about helping me start to reach out to developers to try to make some of those things a reality.
What would you change, Vishad? What would you change in the design of the glasses if you had? What would you do? How would you change it?
From cosmetic and design appearances and kind of the way that the way it looks aside to sort of the public, from a functional standpoint, I would the part that has the prism, or at least the camera, I would try to give it almost a close to 360 degree, not a 360, or what's the word I'm looking for? Up and down rotational ability. Right now, you can kind of move the prism from side to side, which may change the sort of the lateral view of glass. But I think for us surgeons, really being able to adjust that camera would allow, or point it down even, would allow you to wear glass comfortably and use it in the way it was designed, but at least be able to adjust it to view, your operative field, which is a little different in every surgical specialty. So,
what would you change, Paul?
I think probably that's a very good thought Vishad had. I mean, I think it's going to have to be more of a goggle type thing with binocular vision, that you can actually move your windows away from you with just hand motions. If you look at the Ether 1, they just pulled that off. I had actually one of the original. I paid for one of the starter kits, and I just got refunded today or whatever because they pulled it and went enterprise. The reason I was interested in that is because it uses a kinetic technology, and you can move your windows out of your field of view. So if you're a neurosurgeon and you've got these stimulators and all these different things, you could move into your field of view and set it exactly where you would want, like a desktop. And I think that's important with what Vishad's talking about, especially in neurosurgery, because everything is hand-eye coordination, and right now we're doing hand-eye coordination while we're looking up at a monitor, and we all know that that's almost impossible. Well, it's not as easy to do. It's just like me doing hand-eye coordination, looking at laparoscopically up at a monitor. I mean, it's not intuitive to look up and do stuff like this. I mean, so I think it's that sort of binocular three-dimensional field that you can have multiple things in. I think that's really the big thing. I mean, is not having it binocular, having the camera angle is a little bit off, like you said, and it's a little bit back here. It's a little bit painful sometimes if you wear it with certain things. Headlamps and things like that can push on it on your ear. So I would take the battery thing off for an enterprise scenario and just run a cord down the back like you would any other headlamp, so that you have good power and stuff for it. And I know I don't mind it. I wear headlamps all the time. I'm sure Vishad does too. I mean, he probably wouldn't care if it was corded.
I wouldn't notice another cord.
And they've got pretty powerful ones, the batteries that they use for the wireless headlamps that we use now and stuff. So I think it would make it a lot more functional.
How about you, Jeff? What would you change in the design of the glass?
I think what's been mentioned, the field of view, being able to change it, rotate it, move it left or right, move it up and down a little bit more. It'd be nice. I wear 3.5 time loops, 3.5 power loops. It'd be nice to be able to focus a little bit more on one select area, perhaps change the field of view, widen it, narrow it. The battery power, of course. I personally don't like cords. Just one of these things that I just don't enjoy. So if there was a better battery that was smaller, I'd prefer that. But I think those are fair things. As far as arthroscopy or endoscopy, I think most surgeons who do that are very used to looking up at the picture and triangulating with their hands and kind of looking away from the field. I think it'd be wonderful to be able to see an image while you're doing that. The quality of the image, though, can't really approach, in my mind, an HD image on a large monitor yet. It would have to be considerably better in order to really see detail if you're doing arthroscopy or endoscopy. I'm assuming if you're in the belly and you're looking at things, you can't rely on a low resolution image. Now, of course, it's closer to your eye, it's a bigger field, but even then, you lose something when you're not looking at a large screen. I'm used to looking at a big flat screen when I'm doing arthroscopic procedures. So yeah, there we go. So there's only so much you can put in front of your face at once. So that's the problem. So what Paul mentioned about being able to move things away, that's fine too. Again, it's a lot of hands-free stuff that's doesn't exist yet. So the software has to catch up too.
Definitely.
Well, there was I was telling Vishad previous to you guys coming, there's a doctor down in Houston, Edward Huang. He's doing a fellowship in medical devices, and he actually works on the design of Google Glass. Maybe some night we can get you guys together with him and give your input as far as what you'd like to have changed in that glass. I hope to he's going to have a hangout next week, I believe. But maybe we can get you guys together, the surgeons together, and you can give me your input about doing that stuff.
That's pretty cool.
So okay, Vishad, what kind of cases are you doing in neurosurgically? Are you doing mostly minor cases with the glass in the OR, or?
Right now, it's been mostly minor. The problem is that most of the larger cases I do require me to wear loops, and I haven't had a loops attachment. I haven't quite figured out how to get glass to actually stay on loops. I tried putting it over just like their standard loops, and it didn't work. I saw one of the things that you were trying to do online, Jeff, with your 3.5, the flip down loops, and that was one thing. And then I just gave up trying to do that. I was like, is there a way to attach it to the side of the frame? And I was like, without doing some massive tape job that would make this kind of completely pointless, I was like, forget it. And then I saw Dave's post online about Designs for Vision doing the loops thing with those, and I think I'm probably going to end up getting those. The difficulty for me has been trying to figure out. I like those, Paul. The difficulty.
You need.
That's one of Edward's new design.
John hates when I do this because I do it every night. So you're just
yeah, Jeff, you see those?
I've seen it. Actually, I watched it on another one too. So.
Yeah, actually, if you come to the conference, we're giving away. I got a whole case of them from China.
Nice. And so I think I'll probably end up getting those. Now, the biggest problem for me was figuring out what to do. I have a pretty bad vision in terms of my power, and so while that works really well for standard regular frame loops, pretty much every frame from Google and that everybody else has made, it has some kind of a wrap to it, even the tiniest wrap. And so I was actually talking a lot back and forth with Rochester Optical to see if they could even make just a regular pair of prescription frames that I could wear with glass. And unfortunately, we had no luck. It seemed like even the tiniest bit of wrap, I can't see through it. So basically, I'm probably going to be going with the frames that don't have a prescription, just the clear shields with the loops attached into them, and just wear contacts for those cases. And so I've been training my eyes to wear contacts for longer periods of time.
It's not fun.
So I can try it out at least for some of the shorter cases, the trauma case or something along those lines, just to kind of see what it would be, what the experience would be like.
What kind of applications would you like to see made in neurosurgery? What do you think would help you with the glasses on? What
You know,
type of applications? Just generally, not specifically.
yeah, just generally, I mean, I think things that can pipe information to the glass screen, things that we can just, and brief bites, not significant things, but, if there's a change in neuromonitoring, for example, or, if you needed to look up and quickly reference just kind of an overall image, not something in detail, but just that. Even things to help you remember stuff, like, what size of screws you need to put into the spine in a particular area. But I think that even some of the more basic things, like taking it away from the OR, but even just things like bedside procedures. If you're a busy junior resident, you're running around the hospital, and you need to do a procedure, you may be the only guy in the hospital at that time who's doing neurosurgical stuff, and you're getting pages. Just having that there, and even with the basic stuff that's on glass already, just having that there, being able to put it on, snap your little clear shield in and use that as kind of an eye protection for yourself while you're doing that procedure, but be able to see the pages or maybe even answer the phone calls that are coming in towards you. I think that's a huge step above, having to put your phone on the side, rely on, a nurse or a tech who's in the area to answer that for you. And if they, they get busy and you're trying to talk back and forth across your surgical field to figure out what's going on, I think that's a huge distraction as opposed to whether you can just look up at that screen and triage whether you need to answer this now or we can wait until you're done with your procedure. I think little tiny applications like that could be where glass is truly revolutionary because it'll change just the subtle everyday things that you kind of take for granted. Especially, I think, and I'm looking at it from a perspective as a resident, just the little things that could potentially help my day go more simply, and better for patient care.
So you have to break scrub much less frequently with the glass, or you really don't notice the difference too much?
I don't know. I mean, it hasn't necessarily changed whether I break scrub or not per se, but I think it helps that rather than having to kind of, if I can see a phone call or a text coming in or a page coming in, for example, it's one less thing I have to ask somebody else to look into for me. And if it's really important, I still have to ask them to look into me because I can't exactly break scrub to answer a page or a call in the middle of a case. But at least can kind of triage it without necessarily breaking the flow of what you're doing. At least that's my impression of it. But,
you get to make the decision, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can make the decision instead of like some nurse not answering it, and it's like, the guy's borrowed a code, or because you have a good sense of who's probably going to be in trouble. You know where the numbers are, and so you get to make that decision instead of somebody else. I think is the way I would look at it.
Absolutely.
How was it? How did people accept it when you first started? That were they kind of surprised or curious?
I think people are curious about it. I really only use it in the OR. I don't really wear it anywhere else or walk around the hospital with it. My colleagues have been very cool with it, actually. I think it's a pretty cool device. To some extent, curiosity. I think it's a bit of a novelty at this point. And I've used it in a few cases, and my attendings, they're just like, well, as long as you're doing the case and it's not bothering you, it's not an issue. I've tried it actually in a couple of angios where I wore it kind of more for the eye protection than anything else because there's so many monitors going, on during an angiogram that it's kind of redundant to have the prism present of glass present. But people have thought it's pretty cool, and I think that once I get the loops attachments, I'll actually be able to do a little more with it. In terms of within the cases that I'm using it for. Now, from an admin standpoint, I haven't really used it in any way that's kind of very formal or anything that would be sort of HIPAA non-compliant. I've been trying to be very, very particular about how I do it because I'm still using the standard glass software. I haven't put, one of the platforms that are HIPAA secure. So I haven't really done any video streaming because once they took Hangouts out of the picture on glass, it made it a little tough to do that. And when I do use it for taking pictures and stuff, I've kept it disconnected from Wi-Fi so that it doesn't automatically upload anything. So then right after the case, I go plug it into the computer and pull everything off of it. But now that that's changed in terms of how glass sends those pictures to your phone and kind of automatically uploads it regardless of what kind of internet connection you're on, I just stopped taking pictures until something comes along that'll allow me to do that in a safe way because I don't want to compromise any patient information.
You don't do rounds with the glass?
Absolutely not.
Against the hospital policy?
Well, the thing is that I haven't quite figured out a way that I would use it in our rounds that would benefit me per se. And so, I think that I've seen some of the stuff that the guys are doing in various ERs and stuff with some of the different platforms, and I think that's pretty cool. But from a purely logistical and realistic standpoint, for what I do right now, where I am, I don't think that I'd be able to integrate it. And I like the concepts and the ideas that they've come up with, and I think that has a lot of potential, but it's just not something that I'd be able to do where I am right now. So I might look at that in the future, I think.
Okay.
Hey, John, I heard that there's some hecklers trying to heckle you on the text messaging.
Okay, let me go to attend to that. Paul, take over.
Are you gonna? So there's some questions I heard. Somebody
Great.
text.
Okay.
We've been used to this, guys. Like every night, John forgets about the text messaging for questions.
Yeah, I'm getting stretched thin. Okay. Oh, they were giving check with Designs for Vision. They make prescription lens loops. Hey, I'm going to give you the address, Vishad. Oh, let me just bring it up.
These are the 2.5 loops they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've been talking with one of their reps, and I'm probably going to get the 2.5. That's pretty much what I use most of the time anyway. I think for me personally, I think if I needed to use 3.5, I'd probably just go under the actual operative microscope. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, I'm subject to whatever my attendings decide they want to do for the case. so yeah. I'll continue to use my 2.5 loops because that's just what I'm comfortable with.
So your attendings have been pretty good about letting you use it?
Yeah, they've been okay with me using it as long as I don't make it a distraction. So for the most, that's why I'm very interested in like stuff that I can just have sit on the screen without having to do too much interaction to get to it. And that's why I thought Context Aware's talk last night was pretty cool, because the idea of just kind of in the particular situation automatically sending that sort of stuff is cool, because it might be disruptive to the surgical team to kind of be constantly going, okay, class, do this, you know. But I think that's kind of where that is.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's well, I'll give you the email address later of the loop company, I guess. Designs for Vision. Have you heard of that one, Paul? Designs for Vision.
Yeah, they're going to be at the conference showing off their loops
okay.
with glass.
Very good. John, do you have any questions? You're quiet tonight. John, can you hear me? No, you can't hear me. Okay. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, sorry, I had it on mute there. I had all kinds of background stuff.
Oh, okay. Any questions for Vishad?
It sounds like you want something more like a heads-up display from an F-15 fighter jet. You know, like a window that just has all kinds of transparent information, and you just call it up as you need it.
Oh,
How much information can you really put on that little glass monitor?
That's the thing. Not too much. And so I think it's about thinking about how to sort of present that information in a way that sort of filters out, what you need. So, I talked about the various things, but I think it has to kind of be like, I need to look at a particular image, so it's going to be like that slice, not necessarily scrolling through the entire thing. Or if I'm going to have it scroll through, it's not going to be something I'm going to necessarily be able to control. I'm going to have to ask somebody to kind of scroll it on the screen and maybe have that kind of a screencast to the Prism where I can look at that radiologic imaging. And I was almost able to get that to kind of work once with the screencasting app, but I think with all the changes that have happened in the source code and the software for Glass, a lot of outside apps that you kind of try to install on the side don't really work anymore. So that's kind of out of the question unless someone develops something specifically for this version of Glass's software that can do that.
One of the things you can do, Vishad, is if you clean them, make sure you get all the patient information off, and you take it in a PowerPoint and take all the individual slides and make it into a movie, and then send it to yourself through a Hangout, like so that it's clean. You can look at the image, and then it'll rotate through, like through a CT. But you just got to make sure it's clean before you do it. I haven't in a while, but that was one of the ways we got around doing it. And then if you need somebody to kind of get it up for you, you can have them do it with the screencast. You know what I mean, like in a tab or something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of doing something similar, but just with static images. I got to take a picture of one slice.
I'm sure you have a trauma case and you've got some studies up. You're not going to have time to do that.
No, exactly.
And the basic information you're going to know anyway. So a lot of the presentations I've seen have shown basic information. You know that anyway. You're looking
Right.
for something very specific, and that's the hard thing. But hopefully the software will catch up with that.
Yep.
Right, and I think you're 100% correct. I mean, like, if I got a trauma coming in, I'm going to know most of the basic stuff. What I'm going to want to see is when I'm on my way to the OR, the chest X-ray I just took, or the, you know what I mean, something like that, like, or the what we call a TEG that we just sent, which is a thromboelastogram, which we use for, to decide what blood products to give. That's the kind of information that takes time. Once we send it, then we're going to want to get, en route to kind of continuously be able to resuscitate that patient.
And I think that's one of the things that, it's the key thing will be able to, you have to kind of look at glass in an enterprise setting, and how do you merge that with your EMR and, your imaging, platform, and being able to kind of call that information up at will, I think, is where the future of technologies like glass would be. But, we're so far in the beginning stages of any of this stuff that, that sort of connection doesn't really exist right now. And so if you really want to put anything on it, you kind of have to sort of piece it together and create it yourself and then throw it on there. So in that sense, I think glass in its current iteration is limited, but that being said, it is a beta product, so it's got plenty of room to grow.
Very good. Any more questions, gentlemen, or any comments?
Have any of you guys started using any of the other wearable stuff in the OR or in your medical practice and whatever in general, like Android Wear or Pebble or any of the smartwatches or other things?
Yeah, Vishad has quite a background in wearables, not just glass, right?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a background. I just say I kind of like them, so I keep buying.
Yeah.
I don't know if I call that a background.
Oh, okay. You keep up with things. What's going on with wearables?
I like to read about them and what's going on, and I'd like to say I think I'm up to date in all the little changes and the stuff that people are putting out. Background would imply that I know how to make stuff for them, which is not true.
No, I looked at your Google Plus page, and you're mentioning a lot of the wearables, and
Yeah.
I mean, the issue is you can't put something on your wrist. I know that Paul showed the other night. I was watching the forearm band, the Myo. It sounded really interesting. I looked that up. It sounds very exciting. But you can't get anything on your hands. So we all are used to using foot controls and foot pedals, but that's not wearable.
Right.
A lot of the things have been. The question is, will these things approach the accuracy and the comfort level that you normally feel? The last thing you want to do is fuss with something in the middle of the case.
Mm-hmm.
But have you started using anything? Has anybody else started using anything?
I don't know. I mean, some people have talked about using the Myo. I don't own one. I don't know whether some people are using it. I certainly would not be able to use that. I scrub past my elbows for our cases, and so there's no way I could make that sterile. Like for the lead motion, I think is kind of a cool thing. It's not a wearable, but being able to kind of hover, do the hand motions to controlling images, that's kind of cool. But I mean, I use a smartwatch. That's kind of more of my go-to device, just kind of for day-to-day stuff. I pair it with my phone that gets all of my work texts and things like that, and that's kind of a quick way to triage what's going on, so I don't have to actually pull the phone out of my pocket. But people do that normally for regular stuff, so it's not exactly novel.
Vishad, is the Myo even available? And if so, what would you use it for?
I think alpha, or I think like there's a developer version that's kind of out in the market. The honest truth is that it's a really cool device. I just don't know what I would be able to do with it in the operating room because I couldn't wear it. I'd have to think a little bit more on that. Off the cuff, I can't really think of an application that I could use.
I mean,
from a surgical standpoint, you are.
I'm not a surgeon or anything, but anything you would use a foot pedal for, if you had instead transferred it to the Myo, you could be more mobile, in theory.
In theory, I think that because you could move your hand, you'd have more fine dexterity and control. Theoretically, the problem is it comes back to is being sterile in the operating room, and we have to. That's kind of a tenet. You can't change that. So anything that has to be worn from here down is pretty much a no-no. for any surgical case, because you have to scrub your hands and then you're under a gown, and completely sterile for the procedure. And so that's kind of, I think, why most stuff in the OR has evolved to be either foot pedals or somebody else controls it, or it's a sterile instrument that you can work with your hands.
Well, I guess that's probably the advantage of
hands, right?
Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not good with the protocol on this. I'm saying you're using your hands.
Yeah.
So to turn your arm and do different things while you're using your hands, it's difficult.
Right.
That's why foot pedals exist.
I use the ion glove as a mouse, and there's just a button on there that takes it right offline. And that's not a very accurate device, but it's very easy to just toggle the button with your thumb if you're not holding anything, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think that there's actually. I mean, maybe some neurosurgery data that I haven't dug into, but I don't think there's actually any data that suggests that scrubbing past your your elbows is gonna. You might as well scrub up to your armpits. I mean, I don't know that it's gonna really change your infection rate. To be quite honest with you, I guess that's the advantage of working in poop with bullet holes in colons and stuff. And I don't really have a problem with that. But
scrubbing past my elbows is right up to standard.
Yeah, we know. We get it, man. You're shaving your arms too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Of course.
Just kidding. That makes it more sterile, right?
Right.
No, I see that. That's what we hear of people, and I probably should run it right in my study because I don't think it's going to change anything whether you scrub to here or you scrub to there and you wear the mile right there. I think I agree with Jeff. It's going to be. It sounds great to be able to do all that stuff, and we're integrating it into one of our mass triage apps, and we're going to use thumbs up and thumbs down basically to kind of say yes or no in the algorithm, and so that's kind of okay, but then it's still you're using your hands again. You know what I mean? You're doing stuff, and if we were trying to operate, and you're like, yeah, make this motion and make this motion and do that. I mean, I agree. I don't know that that's going to be quite the answer either. I think it's probably a next step. And I'm excited to be able to work with them and try and see what we can make it do. You know what I mean? But I think I would agree with Jeff. I mean, it's going to be a little hard to be sitting there like doing some fine skills and then be like, you know what I mean, or something like that to get your image up. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to do that. So. But I have, like I said, I have heard that criticism, and I don't think that it's 100% valid in the real world. I don't think that scrubbing up to. In fact, Martineau is harassing me over text to tell you that you really don't need to scrub past your elbows. That's where I got that from.
Yeah, no,
David Martineau's text.
Past my elbows.
Maybe you and he can do the study. We'll see who gets the higher infection rate. You can publish it.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I guess it's probably because I'm just working with poop, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, they're all pretty bad.
Okay, very good, gentlemen. Any more comments, questions? Well, you're all invited tomorrow, and Jeff, tomorrow we have a Glass Agora, where there's going to be two developers, app developers, in a hangout. That if you have any ideas, you can run them by the developers. One of the developers is Cecilia Abadi, who is a pretty big name. I don't know if you've seen her name around Google+, but she's a pretty big name, and apparently she's a very good Glass app developer. And Rob Schmidt is also going to be there from Los Angeles. So you're all welcome to come. I'm going to send you all an invitation at 1 o'clock tomorrow. You can come by and just shoot some ideas by those two developers. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
It's a great new app that they just made. It's really, really cool. It's for medical students. It's a flashcard app that's so that they can just learn different things and have flashcards. So she's been working on that, which is pretty cool. Like I saw it the other day. They call it Flash Stacks Medical App, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For Glass?
Yeah. Yeah, so she'll probably talk about that at the conference, but I won't steal her thunder. But I know that they're working on that, and it looks like it's a pretty cool app.
Good, very good. Okay, gentlemen, stick around. I'm just going to go off the air. Okay, good night.
Thank you.